May I please record? Ladies and gentlemen, why does it have to be quantity or quality? Why can't it be both? Why do we have to choose quantity or quality? Why can't it be both? That's what we brought you this week, quantity and quality. This is the first time in my career as a prosecutor I've been accused of bringing too much evidence into a court. But that's what I did with you all. I told you when I got up in here in opening statement that at the end there's three things you need to look out for. You need to look out for, number one, they both left Walmart at the exact same time. Maybe 2 minutes off, but they were both there at the same time. Did I prove that to you? Absolutely. I had to prove to you that he was in possession of her property 2.5 hours later. Did I prove that to you? Absolutely. And I had to prove to you that she was smothered. Did I prove that to you? Absolutely. Now, those are the only three things that I really needed to prove to you in this case that happened in Dallas County, state of Texas. But if I proved those three things to you, then you should return a verdict of guilty and a swift verdict of guilty. Now, I also told you that I know, and I read your jury questionnaires. Y'all didn't talk a whole lot. You're the quiet ones that were left behind, okay? But I read through your questionnaires. And I know that a lot of you watch CSI and you listen to podcasts and you listen to crime dramas and you look at all those things. I've listened to them. I've watched To Make a Murder or whatever, or The Serial and all that. And I know that this day and age, people want more. They want all of those questions answered. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have answered all of those questions that you could possibly have. Now, did he leave the scene in such a way that trained professionals could detect that he had been there? Absolutely not. What does that tell you about him and his abilities? It tells you he's good. It tells you he's very good at what he does. He is efficient. He is good at picking out those people. You saw him on March 15th. You saw him walk in for a few minutes and walk out and survey. You saw that. You saw him again on March 20th at that same location. You know he was in that Altima back on January 30th. You know it. You know it because on March 15th, that same Altima shows up and he walks out of it wearing the yellow tie. The yellow tie he told the detectives he was wearing on March 15th. Right? It doesn't have to be just quantity or just quality. It can be both. And that's what you have in front of you. I brought you everything I could find. Everything, every record, everything we could do to make sure that if you were one of those one skeptical kind, I have to prove it to all 12 of y'all. And so I'm looking, I don't know if it's you, or if it's you that needs just a little bit more. So I went that little bit more. Just that little bit more, and that little bit more, so that there wasn't anyone who could come back and say the state of Texas didn't do their job and didn't present what they could. The detectives, when they got onto this, when they got onto Billy Chemirmir and knew that he was out there stalking and hunting in our community, they went full bore to try to investigate this case. My office did the same thing, went full bore. You saw this judge give him a fair trial. You know these lawyers are good, and they would not be sitting at this table if they didn't, and they put on the best defense that Billy Chemirmir could have. And now the job is turned over to you all. You have to take this evidence. You have to consume it, you have to deliberate on it, and you have to return a just verdict. And there is only one just verdict in this case. And that is guilty of capital murder. Not because I say it or because I want it to happen or anything like that. It's because it is what the evidence has led us to know. On March 20th, you know that the Plano Police Department are starting to work on Billy Chemirmir. Why? And they say, which case am I talking about here? I'm talking about the state of Texas versus Billy Chemirmir. That's what I'm talking about. That's the only case you need to worry about, is the state of Texas versus Billy Chemirmir. Okay? And so in order to tell the events of March 20th, I had to go back to March 19th. And I had to talk about Mary Bartell. And I had to. And how is it that Mr. Chemirmir is the most unluckiest individual ever, that on his offer-up account, he is selling a very unique ring that belonged to this woman. On January 30th, he is selling this very unique ring belonging to this woman, both having been attacked and smothered. And a few hours later, from this woman, Lou Harris, being found dead, he's got her property. The most unluckiest of individual ever. He just keeps falling into the property of people who have been smothered. Is that possible? No. And that is why Mr. Barney says we have proven this beyond all doubt. Because it is just not possible. It is just not possible. Now the phones, why do we go through all of this? He's on his phone, and his phone puts him there in that picture. He is on his phone, and his phone puts him here in that picture. He is in this at Enterprise, and his phone puts him there. Now, we don't have him there. We don't have someone who says, yes, I saw him put a pillow over Mary Bartell's face, but his phone puts him there. March 15th, the minute he gets identified by someone who comes up and talks to him, what does he do? He runs off. He runs away. Right? So the minute he's confronted, he takes off. So you want to know why we don't have anybody? You know what I've often thought in looking at this case with Miss Harris? And the way she exits that Walmart and turns right, having him go out before her. What if she had gone out the other way? What if she had gone out the other way? Would she still be the hoop that Rick called her? Would she still be able to be generous, a generous soul that he described her as? Would she still be bringing joy and love to her family?
Judge, I'm sorry, I'm not the judge, but that's an improper argument.
Ladies and gentlemen, the argument of the lawyers, or the statements of the lawyers, are purely arguments. You have heard all the evidence and testimony that you will receive in this case. The statements that you hear from the lawyers during the argument is not evidence. Thank you.
Ms. Harris. He said this is how she looks in this picture, how she presented in life. This is how Billy Chemirmir thinks of her. Discarded like the pieces of paper or whatever's on her head. That's what he turned her into. Nothing. Doesn't even care. And what do they say? Well, we don't have to explain all this stuff. We don't have to say who the guy is that had her name or her Kim necklace or this green ring. We don't have to have the exact bracelet that she's in that picture on. We don't have to come up with why he still has keys that unlock the doors to her house. We don't have to explain that away. We don't have to explain why her handwriting is in his possession. We don't have to say why this jewelry box is in his possession. Well, remember we showed you this jewelry box? Now keep in mind, on March 20th, he's in that Sonata, having rented it the day before. There's very few items in that car. Okay? There's some diapers from the morning. He said he bought some diapers at Albertsons. He said he went to Walmart for some eggs and some Dawn dish soap. Okay, that's in the car. There's, in the back seat, he got some food from the African Fusion place. And there's some bottles of wine that he went and got in there. What's the one odd thing that's in that car? A hammer. Why is there a hammer in the back seat of a rented car of Mr. Chemirmir? Well, you have the damaged jewelry box. Somehow you had to get in to the jewelry box. Well, doesn't it seem logical that he got himself a hammer? Now, I can tell you, he didn't go back to that same Walmart there to get that hammer. There would have been video of that. But somehow he comes up with this Walmart hammer. We know that there's a Walmart right on his route home that he takes, right down here at Montfort and Beltline. I don't have video from that store. Didn't know to get it. It's gone. Now, if this guy in this white truck has this jewelry box and I just picked out the parts I wanted or whatever, okay, well, did you look through it ahead of time and just buy the stuff and the guy keep it, or you bought the whole box? Well, then why are you trying to get into it later on with the hammer? How did you know you even needed a hammer? Doesn't make sense, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't make sense. They have the luxury of just saying that. That we don't have to do that. And that's true. They don't have to do anything. But it's been 3 years. They have the same subpoena power we do. They can issue subpoenas if they want to. Okay? And if there's a Hispanic male out there on Spring Valley that's selling this stuff, I'd sure like to meet him. Why did I not produce evidence to the contrary? How do I disprove that? That there's this fictitious figure out there in a white pickup truck selling jewelry on the side. Oh, hey, I see you've got. I see you. We've bought from each other before. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna go get some food. Come meet me at my house, and I'll go buy from you there. Wait a minute. We were watching you. Oh, not at my house. At the house next door, the area next door. That's where I was buying it from. Okay, how much did you spend? $700. This is 20 minutes. This is right before he was arrested. And he doesn't know the exact amount he spent for this jewelry? Come on. I mean, did you hear? I mean, I hope it was obvious to y'all. And I hope I'm not wasting your time. I hope I didn't waste your time after, really, once Detective Sayers got on the stand and put in the videos from Walmart on March 20th. I hope you don't feel like I wasted your time to going through all of the other evidence that I had in this. But I have to make sure that everything is done in this case. And that you see Billy Chemirmir as I see Billy Chemirmir. Not necessarily through my eyes, but through Mary Brooks's eyes, through Mary Bartell's eyes, and through Lou T. Harris's eyes. Because that's the last face they ever saw. Not the face of the loved ones that were surrounding them maybe in their final days. Not their grandchild who lived just right next door that was there to kind of make sure that the grandma was okay. Not Rick who lived a couple of...
I'm sorry, that's an improper argument during this time of the proceedings.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have heard all the evidence and testimony from the witness stand in this case. Once again, the statements and arguments made by the attorney is not evidence. Thank you.
Nations will be measured by how they treat the weakest of their members. That's what Mahatma Gandhi said. Our society will also be judged by how we treat the weakest among us. If you look at this evidence, we asked you all to do a lot of things down here. We asked you to come down last Wednesday. We asked you to come back this week. We asked you to, keep away from your family and friends. Don't talk to them like you normally would. We asked you to kind of work on our schedule. We asked you to stay late yesterday. We asked you, maybe you're news buffs, and told you don't watch the news anymore. Okay, don't talk to your friends and family and about these things. And maybe some of you all have lost money this week because you've had to come down here rather than go where you're supposed to go. One thing we don't ask you to do is to give up your common sense. No one asked you to check your common sense at the door. Common sense is genius dressed up in its working clothes. Emerson said that. And I'm asking you to draw upon your common sense here. What are the possibilities of this taking place and this being the most unlucky man. It's not possible. All this evidence we brought you, these 300 pieces of evidence, boiled down to basically he's at Walmart, she's smothered, and he's thrown out her stuff. It comes down to that. And I apologize if I brought too much evidence. I apologize to y'all right now. But I will do it today, I'll do it tomorrow, and I'll do it in every case that I do. Because that is what we are called upon to do in this side of the aisle. And now you are called upon to render a just verdict. And as Mr. Barney said, I don't expect this to take you very long. It should take you probably longer to pick your foreperson. Because there's really nothing that you all need to discuss beyond your own deliberations. Thank you all.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is all the argument. If you were here in this case on both sides, we are now in your hands. I am going to give the charge to our bailiff. You are now instructed that you may deliberate.